A Sekigahara story is now available. It took like 5 seconds for the characters to load in.
At first I thought it was a glitch. Oh no.
I think we ended up speaking over him, unfortunately.
It's fine, we'll hear his beautiful voice in a minute.
Yes, this is the final Remembrance Chapter for the Prologue section. And this is one of my favorites. I really like Sekigahara's story.
In terms of trying it being a mystery, you really have to put together and kind of trust your own personal judgment of really how you feel about both the character and what he's doing. I would say, yes, A Sekigahara's is extremely well put together in that regard.
It's such an interesting narrative.
Because you go back and forth of how you feel about this character's actions morally, and even how he feels about it, because he doesn't know who he's done, he doesn't know who he is. He could have done anything.
I think Sekigahara is one of the best instances of naturally meddling in 2188 scenes to further confuse the player in an interesting way.
Yeah, like it really threw me for a loop.
Because of the whole plotline of Sekigahara being an assassin.
But then you get to the reveal that this Sekigahara isn't an assassin, and it really throws you... Yeah, like you said, it really plays on your expectations. Is he? Is he not? And not this version of him, but previous versions of him were.
Also, can I just say, wow, that is a tiny waist on that guy.
Very much a twink frame.
Oh, absolute twink vibes. Love him.
And yet his attitude is a perfect contrast to that. Oh hey, it loaded pretty fast for how long it took his portrait to show up. I was worried we'd look at a black screen for like 20 seconds.
Okay, pause the second it will let me so we can go to the mystery files. I'm not making that mistake again.
I think I jinxed it. It's going to be 20 seconds on a black screen.
There we go. It's paused, so it's loaded. Mystery files. Shu Amiguchi is a popular kid from a rich family. He's a decent athlete and kind of a playboy. Despite his flippant attitude, he's friendly and well-liked across the school. Deep down, he's mostly bored and tired of his life. While in the shopping district, he happened across Yuki, getting harassed by Takemi Wajima and his gang, and helps her out. Amiguchi ends up falling for her, smitten by her cute looks and tough attitude. Lately, he's been struggling with strange dreams, and even a strange girl who's been talking to him through his TV. Totally normal teenage boy things.
You know, the description alone gives a even deeper insight into why he liked Yuki as fast as he did, because it specifies he's mostly bored of his life and then meets this girl that counters every expectation of what he thinks, you know, high school girls act like. It's just this new, it's like different, exciting, it's like thing that's come into his life, and he hooks onto it. Like, yeah, no wonder he falls for her as fast as he does. He's never met someone like that before. I mean, he says as much.
So, Amiguchi's room. Anyone would be envious of this luxurious room. A whopping 20 tatami mats in floor space. It features a cutting-edge audio system, the latest gaming consoles, a large bookshelf, and a fine view to boot. I love how it's like the latest gaming consoles, and it's a fucking Nintendo Entertainment System.
That's his room? I thought that was his living room! He sleeps in a room that big? Oh,
well,
man!
It's probably both, to be honest. I mean, he's home alone, basically, all the time. We never see his parents, and it's alluded to that his dad is, like, never around. Gogyo Street is a vertical street that runs down the center of high-rise buildings in Aoi Ward. Suzuna Crossing has the highest vehicle traffic density out of all areas in Ashitaba City. The Shikishima Industries headquarters is located nearby, and as you may recognize from that image, not only is that where we saw Miss Morimura going into the Shikishima building, that's also the first scene of the game where we see Iori jump into her Sentinel at the start of the final battle.
I was thinking that looked familiar. You're absolutely right, that is the first scene of the game.
So let's look at the events. We have a new earliest event, number 16. The world is already destroyed in 1985, and it's the earliest thing in the game, but it hasn't been destroyed yet in the 287th thing, but they're still both 1985. What is the deal here? Now, obviously we find out this is one loop ago, but
Yeah.
that's a fun fucking subversion of, well, yes, there's time travel, but, like, we're still traveling back to the same year, so why is the second one the not destroyed one? It's a lot of theory juice, and I love it.
Yeah, again, I'm still trying to piece it together. Like, the second you said only one loop ago, I'm like, isn't it 2 loops ago since he's like 16 there, and he's 32 now, and that would have... Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how loops work, apparently. I thought I knew how they worked. I was wrong. They're much more complicated. It's not as simple as... It's like, oh, it's the next loop? Well, you pick up where you left off, and you're just going to, you know, kind of age with the start of the next loop. Apparently it's not that. I'll figure it out as we go along.
I think where you're missing it is they're revived as 16-year-olds because that's when the loop happens. But the Chihiro and 426 of one loop ago died. The current ones are revivals of the original backups, which is why they're still physically only in their 30s. They
when
just
you say
transferred
that,
the memories.
I don't know what any of that means. My mind is mostly on one of the earliest scenes in the game. Not like 2188, but like earliest scenes like in the actual, I guess you could say, program or simulation.
Video game.
Yeah. You know, with Chihiro, Juro, and Okino in the... What was it called?
Yeah, that section.
Yeah, that session. And
that's the earliest point in the simulation itself. That is 2 loops ago.
Yes. The reason I'm bringing that...
That Jiro and Chihiro get backed up to Sector 0, and then revived 1 loop ago. Then, they do shit. I follow. They do shit. By the end of 1 loop ago, they both die. But the backup in Sector 0 is still there. So at the start of the current loop, that backup gets restored again.
Okay, now I'm getting it. Okay, finally it makes sense. I knew it eventually, if we worked back to when I last got it, it would eventually make sense.
Now,
so that's why there's copies. Okay, now I get it.
And the reason why they have their memories is because they managed to save that shit in Sector 0 again, I think. But they weren't able to save everything.
That's why she said, I'll be on the bridge, tell me. Now I get it. Okay, I get it now. Thank you. I was...
There we go.
For so long.
Yeah, so the
reason I was confused for so long, because when I was bringing up that scene from before, because when Okino shifted them to Sector 0, they ended up on the bridge, and they were like, oh, this is current year. I was born in this year. And I had my mind set. I was like, oh, okay, that's how loops work. You know, you continue off the age you were left when you go to the next loop, even though you're not this loop's current version anymore. And that's how I assumed every new loop worked. I didn't even think about that they would have duplicates in the next loop. But that makes a lot of sense, actually.
There we go. Now that you understand what's going on, it's the only possible explanation. Everything makes too much sense in this game. You've just got to figure it out.
No way out.
And we've got a tense song already. I forget which one this is.
I don't know which is the one this is, but I do remember this. I mean, my memory knows this one. I just don't know it by name. Let's see. Let me go through the playlist real quick. You know, you may as well go through this. I have to skip a bunch of ads.
Wait! You must know who I am, don't you? That's why you've been following me.
Of course I do. You can't escape us, Sekigahara.
Sekigahara. What do you want from me? Tell me. Guess you have a death wish.
Wait! It's because you came from another dimension.
Another dimension?
Well, that reading right there is like threw off how at least how I was figuring out the mystery of this game for so long. I was like, why would they throw out this term, alternate dimension? You know, I'm already figuring out that time travel isn't really time travel, but what does this dimension stuff mean? And that just threw me off, thinking these were two separate things until I realized, wait, no, it's the same thing. Another dimension is just another sector, or another time period, or time travel. It's all the same thing. It's just different characters have different ways of referring to it. And that really threw me for a loop.
They
In a good
really
way, though.
do manage to communicate the different terms in a confusing but very well done way.
Like it
Enough
hooks
with
you.
the
I'm
games.
not
Tell
knocking
me
it
the
for being
truth.
confusion. Quite the opposite.
Enough with the games. Tell me the truth.
Resistance is futile. Surrender now, or else.
If you
It
won't
made me
answer my
think
questions,
that there was basically another section of sectors. Like, oh, these are the 5 sectors of this dimension. There's probably another set of 5 sectors that are another dimension. Because of how much the wording threw me off.
then talking to you is what's futile.
Wouldn't that be complicated?
Another dimension. Could that really be true? Even if it is, there's no way I'd be able to tell. My memories, they're gone. Sekigahara. It's no use, I can't remember anything. But that's what he called me. It has to mean something. Sekigahara. That name doesn't sound familiar, but it apparently belongs to me.
Even
I
his
should
name
have
is
2 or 3
familiar. It
shots
really
left if I
shows
can
how
serve
thoroughly
power.
he's been wiped.
I love how late into his journey we start, and how much happens before his memory gets wiped. It's so interesting. Like, a lot of the routes in this game are extremely interesting to the overall narrative, but as an individual journey and story, I think Sekigahara definitely has one of the better ones. Along with, I'd probably say, Nenji has got one of the best, Tomi's got a pretty good one, Amiguchi's got a pretty good one, Jiro's got a pretty good one. Some of them are more interesting to the grander narrative than they are as an individual character journey. Like, Goto is probably the biggest example of that, where he doesn't even really go on a journey, but his events are very important to the overall narrative.
I'd argue Nenji's is almost kind of the opposite. Like, his route in isolation is actually really engaging, and is both storytelling and character-wise, but it doesn't really have a larger impact on the overall narrative, since the main goal of his route, which is, you know, to find the key, doesn't really come into place in the greater narrative. But it's just such a very well-contained story on its
You
own.
can argue that it's supposed to demonstrate the futility of what 426 tried to do in the one loop ago, where he tried to kill all of the people with the decode and it still didn't save the world.
Because he misunderstood how all of this even worked.
So it's trying to explain how latching onto previous methods of escaping this game and latching onto the past and not being willing to grow and change and let go is exactly what's fucking them over. And that theme really ties into so much of this game. So I think it works. I think it works mostly on a thematic level, where the themes of Nenji's route are all about not staying too chained to the past, being willing to change and adapt and grow.
Okay, I see.
But that's just the way I see it.
That's actually very insightful. If that's the case, my only real nitpick is that it's like I do wish thematically that was conveyed just a little little bit more clearly, just a little bit. Just I think just a few lines, or even just kind of one scene to just kind of show that Okino's like, well, this isn't going to work. We can't. It's like, as you said, clinging to all these old messes just isn't working.
Because that's fundamentally the problem with Tetsuya Ida. He's clinging too much onto the past, and he's not willing to let go, and that's why he does all of the horrible things he does. The reasons why 426 and Chihiro Morimura's adult form both make the mistakes that they do is because they're so dead set on their old ways, they're not willing to take risks and do something new. Which, thankfully, Chihiro ends up coming around on, which is why she... While she does initially do some bad things, most of what she ends up doing is overall good, despite having, again, too many connections to the past and wanting to keep 426 around. And those themes really just carry all the way through this game. It even applies to the 2188 characters, where the 2188 Professor Chihiro Morimura wants to maintain her life by transferring her data into Sector Zero so that it can be picked up by the child Chihiro in this game. And that's before you get into dropped plot lines like Kengo Ogata, who again was trying to be immortal and using the Ark project as his methods to do that.
Not much came of that. I mean, not much really needed to. But all that is really insightful. I mean, one of my favorite themes of this game is very much, is very much, you know, the next generation learning from the old and trying to break the cycles of the cycles that they're trapped in. And how, you know, basically everything in the past doesn't define you currently. And that is very well reflected in the main 13. It's like desperately trying to break this millions of years old loop.
Because it's only when they finally commit to the new dangerous idea of the Aegis project where they are cutting off their ability to loop. This is their last chance. But it opens to new possibilities in how they're able to combat the Sentinels, and it ends up being exactly what they needed to do. They needed to play the video game that they're trapped inside in, and doing so allows them to beat it, which allows them to escape. So even throughout all of the plot, this central theme of progression and latching on to the past being a bad thing, and letting go and acknowledging new difficult possibilities and all of that, it's very important to the narrative of this game, and I think Nenji is a great example of it being pretty low-key, but still communicated through his arc, because the whole point of it is establishing, hey, this old way that they're trying to break out, that Okino is trying to use, it didn't work, and here's why, and you should not do it.
Not knocking Nenji's route too much. I mean, it's got my favorite scene in the whole game, so... It was just me, it's just in the moment when I was playing it and desperately clinging on to every little bit of information they gave me, but thinking, oh, all of it's going to be important to solving the greater narrative. Every little piece is going to play a part in how they escape. And a lot of it does, but, you know, I was thinking like, oh, I thought this thing was important, but you've got a very good point that maybe I was just kind of clinging on to just this idea that everything absolutely has a beginning and end and plays a part in the climax, and not all of it necessarily needed to.
Now, we've been on this tangent for quite a while, so I should try and loop these themes back around to Sekigahara, at least so that I have a point to this. I really like how Sekigahara's narrative, the start of what we see is so late into his journey because it's after he's lost all of his memories. And there's this sense of the past is haunting him. He keeps on trying to escape it in a bad way, where he needs to just accept what's happened and move on. But he's not willing to do that for most of the game. And you see that communicated through the themes of his story, and it's very satisfying.
Extremely.
Sekigahara is definitely one of the better routes in the game in terms of being a distinct journey that a character goes on and making that journey interesting, entertaining, and important.
This gun does feel a bit out of the ordinary.
I think we talked for like 10 minutes and didn't progress the text.
Well, we have to say, we're deep in this game now. We're deep in just really, it's like really digging into all the finer details of its themes, of its character progression, so of course we're gonna go on big tangents about the game.
Could it really be from another dimension? As long as it's set to stun, it won't kill anybody. But it's strange. Why do I know how to use this?
Even if his mind doesn't remember how to use it, his body certainly does. His instincts remember. If nothing else.
Also, another gorgeous lighting moment. Just look at that sunset. It's beautiful.
Good. He's still alive.
I guess
I made sure to set it to stun, not kill.
In a small way, that's kind of brings back to this game's theme of nature versus nurture. That the first version of Sekigahara was an assassin, a very cold assassin, and that even a clone of him, millions of years later, instinctually is not afraid to pull the trigger and take a situation seriously without even flinching. But this version of him still turned out very different morally by the end. He's not a cold assassin. It's just, yeah, naturally this guy has very strong survival instinct, but his circumstances had him take different turns.
I would have liked to see him with not Iori. Like, we've made fun of it in earlier videos in this series, but like, Iori is just... Iori, the current version of her, is not an interesting character. She
unfortunately
generally doesn't have many scenes to shine, and most of the ones she does have aren't even in her own route. It's mainly all of the other versions of her that are interesting and push the plot forward, but the current version is not great, and that unfortunately carries over into her relationship with Sekigahara, where Yuki and Shu start great but just don't develop enough. They kind of don't even really start here. Sekigahara is like everything good about the relationship, and he's still not really doing much for it, because it's just not a good mix of the two characters.
It's really, really bare bones, I guess you could say romantic tropes where, again, she bumps into a cute guy, which I can follow. She remembers this cute guy, she wants to learn more about him, I can follow that enough. And then she basically just kind of gets lost in her own fantasy, very ditzy when the actual plot starts happening around her, and she's like, yeah, but cute guy though, he's the love of my life. I don't know his name or anything about him, but he's the love of my life. I gotta go die for him. It's just, do something interesting, girl.
I think where I would take Sekigahara in a relationship if I got to choose who ended up with who, my favorite non-canon relationship in this game is actually a polycule, a 3-person relationship with Sekigahara, Miura, and Amiguchi. I think Sekigahara and Miura have a great dynamic as friends, and I would have liked to see that potentially become a friends to lovers sort of deal. Meanwhile, Amiguchi, I think, has the playfulness and the right mood that would contrast well with Sekigahara, where Sekigahara would be taking things a little too seriously and Amiguchi would be able to sort of break down that wall and slowly introduce Sekigahara to just having fun and being able to goof around.
It kind of implies that Sekigahara doesn't really change in that regard because he's not even in the epilogue. Iori just says like, oh, Sekigahara isn't really good with all this stuff, so he stayed home.
Yeah,
and
I really, like, I get that someone had to look over and make sure everything was safe. Technically it is arguably the most fitting for it to be him, and it makes sense in the plot that someone has to. It's really disappointing that we don't get to see him in the epilogue at all. But unfortunately, I can't call it, like, bad writing, because it fits his character and it makes too much sense for the plot. It's a disappointing...
It's unsatisfying. Yeah.
It's a disappointing missed opportunity.
Just who
On
are
that note,
these
we should
guys?
probably do more of his route.
We're 26 minutes in, and we are still in the first scene.
This bodes well.
Maybe he has something on him that'll give me a clue.
I think Sekigahara is one of the characters that I have a lot to talk about. Sekigahara and Miura were the two characters that I immediately latched onto and said, ooh, yes, I love you. I'm gonna hyperfixate on you. And then Amiguchi sort of worked his way into that a lot more recently, where I liked him, but I didn't love him on the same level that I love these two. But now all three are, like, top tier.
Just a pair of handcuffs in his pocket.
I did like Sekigahara pretty quickly, but I think it was like midway through his route that he really started to click with me.
And
I'm not gonna lie, part of it is because Sekigahara is really fucking hot. I mean, look at him.
That voice. I mean, Kyle McCarley is
Some
just
old
giving it his
communication
all
device?
in this tone.
it's huge.
Again,
All he has
I was
left
coming
on him
off
is his
of
wallet.
just having finished Infinity Train Book 3. I already heard him voice one monster. I was very wary to see if he was going to voice another. I was like, oh no, do I trust this character? Anyone voiced by Kyle McCarley never meets a satisfying end, or good end, should I say. Satisfying, yes. Good, not really.
You won't mind if I borrow these, will you?
Come on,
Nothing in
Blacker,
here
though.
but cash. Might as well put it to good use. I haven't eaten a thing in 2 days after all. Hang on. This is strange. The designs on these bills look completely different. There's even a 500 yen bill. Aren't those out of print? And these coins are from back in the Showa era. A fancy
How do you
leather
know
wallet.
this?
There are a few bills and coins inside.
There
Yeah.
are certainly some things he recognizes still.
For those unaware, the Showa era refers to this period of Japanese history. A lot of Japanese media will opt to use the era of the current, like, Prime Minister or whatever instead of the year, which is why games set in 1980s Japan, such as 13 Sentinels or the Higurashi and Umineko When They Cry series, often refer to the Showa era rather than the specific year.
No
Which is
credit
what,
cards, though.
We do tend to in English, like the 80s, 90s. Different linguistics.
I'd better not use this here. Its range looks to be only 1 or 2 kilometers. That means his little friends can't be too far. If I mess with it now, they'll know I'm nearby. An outdated transceiver for communication purposes. It has a very limited range. Public transit is too risky. It's likely under surveillance. It might be safest to travel along the river. But before that, I should really get something to eat. 2 days ago, I woke up in that alley. My memory's gone. Since then, I've been on the run non-stop.
I thought we were going to end the scene walking through the door at the start, but we didn't.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
well.
scene. Oh, I love this scene. I adore this scene.
This is a very, very good hook.
Where am I?
I think out of all the
How did I get
prologue
here?
remembrance sections, this was my favorite hook out of.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I can't remember anything.
And it was this scene that really pushed it over the edge, because you literally go into detective mode
What
with
is this?
Sekigahara, and
Some
I
kind
love
of
it.
gun? Why would I have something like this? Is this thing real? Why would I be carrying a weapon?
And I love that through basically most of his route, through how he acts, how he talks, how he thinks, you genuinely can't tell if this guy is a killer or not. Like he really could have. It really could have gone either way.
And then you get
It's
these
such effective characterization.
And then you get the very late game twist that it was actually child Chihiro that killed Miss Morimura. And it's just, it works so well. I love it.
Everything is a complete blank.
Now I will admit, I don't really know why she does that. I mean, she says there is like we don't need more than 2 Chihiros, but
I
it's
forget
not
exactly.
really a reason.
I forget exactly why. By that point in the game, you're so close to the end that you're just kind of
Yeah, hence
in
why.
climax mode.
Hence why some details I checked out for,
Why am I here?
like Sector 0 duplicates.
Why am I here? I don't even remember my own name.
Also, another great lighting section. Look at how natural that is. Those are 2D sprites. How do they do this?
I
How-
don't know. This game has sold me on Vanillaware as a company. I need to play all their games and need to play whatever they make next.
Hey, miss.
I mean,
Are
I
you
know they're
okay?
not all going to be exactly like this, but still.
She isn't breathing. I wonder what happened here. It's no use. I still can't remember anything.
It's such good. It's like animation there.
Is it possible that I did this? Looks like she's bleeding from the abdomen. Based on this evidence, the gun appears to be the most likely cause of death. Is it possible this woman and I know each other? All I know
Again,
is
I
I woke
feel
up
like
next
with
to her with a gun
most
in
of
my
the other
hand.
cast, they would react to the sight of a dead body a lot more kind of horrified and stressed out. And it's not like he doesn't have a reaction to it. But again, it's his survival instincts kicking in, keeping him level-headed, trying to put things together.
And it's a trait from his 2188 self that's carrying over as well. And
Again,
it's
a nature
very
versus
natural.
nurture. Yeah, it's a nature versus nurture thing again. I just think, him just having very level-headed survival input pulses is just part of who he is.
Also, can I just say, they very naturally managed to have this overlay and the text walking around while you think. It's very nice.
Just looks so seamless.
Was I the one who killed her?
Again, he is bothered by it, but, not as much as, a lot of the other cast members would be.
This is where I woke up. Did I miss anything? Pills? It's highly likely these belong to me. Alright. I should see if that woman has anything useful on her. It might serve as a clue to what happened here. Oral NM C0204 is printed on the label. The bottle's made of plastic. There's nothing inside.
I think out of all
There's
the
something in her
games
skirt
kind
pocket.
of, sort of, I mean, generally the Remembrance is built as an almost mystery style with how its presentation, to put clues together and whatnot. And I think that's most effective in Sekigahara's route, especially for this scene.
I love a good mystery story. Like, a lot of my favorite media has been mystery stories, or a lot of the fundamental media that's gotten me into, like, fandoms and shit. Like, I wouldn't call Danganronpa a favorite anymore, but it was my entry into weebdom. Meanwhile, Zero Escape, oh god, Zero Escape is good. I mean, it's batshit, but it's good. I'm a huge Umineko fan, as can be seen by the fact that I've been trying to upload them daily. And Umineko is like the king of murder mysteries. Yeah, I love a mystery story. They're just so satisfying. I love trying to figure out what's going on and connecting the dots. And I think I love 13 Sentinels so much because it's a mystery story that manages to pace out its clues so effortlessly. And it's so much of it is so open to playing it in different orders. Like, this is a non-chronological fake time travel narrative where so much of it is open to be played in different orders, and it still manages to be delivered so well and have such fair foreshadowing and clues, and you genuinely can figure out just about everything in this game ahead of time if you connect the dots together. And it's so well done.
You actually bring up a good point with that. I'm actually really curious about when we actually get past the prologue, what order we're going to tackle some of this in, because it might be very different from my playthrough, and I'm very excited to see a lot of events in different order than how I first experienced them.
I think the way I'm thinking of doing it is going in order of the characters until they run out of story to do. So, like, starting with Jiro, then Iori, etc., in order, those 13. But who knows, I might shake things up. I might have to do Miura earlier than that, because I think it takes a while to get to Miura if you do it in that order.
Yeah, maybe.
And I mean, come on, my name is Hamburger.
I mean, how can we wait that long? When I was playing through my playthrough, I think the only regret I have with how I experienced some reveals is that I wish I went through Tomi's route more before I got really far into Nenji's. Because they start developing as a couple mostly in hers, and I think a lot of the events for Nenji would be a little bit more satisfying if I had more of the context in her route first. Not to say I still didn't enjoy it, I just feel like I would have enjoyed it more had I did it in that order instead.
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we get to it. We've still got to get through this first. We're not quite out of the prologue yet.
No, we're only 30 minutes into this episode, and we're still
38.
like barely halfway through this.
We're 38.
A piece of paper with numbers written on it. Are there any other clues around here?
Now that we're deep into the plot, there's so much to talk about, and Sekigahara is also a character that I have so much to talk about, because they were one of my favourite routes in the game, and I think a lot of the really strong writing is easy to point out in his route. Such as the extremely effective mystery story, because Sekigahara's route is its own mystery story. You're figuring out, okay, why is Miss Morimura dead? Did he kill her? Why doesn't he have any memories? What happened before he lost his memories? Why is everyone behaving the way they are? And so much more. And it's such an excellent microcosm of the macro wide-scale narrative of mystery telling in this game. It really is just a great example of the total experience of solving the mysteries of this game, but wrapped up into one route, where it's very complicated, but it's so interesting and satisfying and fair and well plotted. think that's part of why I latch onto this route so strongly. Because this route, in a lot of ways, is a great way to showcase why I think the writing is so strong. A lot of the arguments for why this route is so good are easy examples that I can apply to the rest of the game.
Especially in the format of this route. Again, I think this route takes advantage of the game's kind of mystery-solving format the best. Second best, I would probably give to Juro.
Yeah, he's another really strong one. Yeah, let's keep going though.
I mean, we'll get to Juro once we get past the prologue, so yeah.
The note says 443-685-3214. What could it mean? A password of some sort? She has nothing else on her. There's nothing else here. Oh, I haven't checked my own pockets yet. Let's see. An ID card.
Oh, yeah, that's
a student
the
ID to be
ID,
specific.
right?
Yes.
And a key. But to what? ID code key. There's an emblem on it. Maybe it's a car key? ID card. This appears to be someone else's student ID. Sakura High School, Class 1B. Iori Fuyusaka. Fuyusaka. Her face does look familiar, but I can't remember how I know her. It's uncanny, though. Almost like she's important to me.
It's like, I don't know, is it very... How similar does it look to the lady on the floor?
In one way or another.
You said it was an uncanny resemblance. Maybe it's the same face that's right next to you.
It's a student ID from Sakura High School. It appears to belong to a female student. Iori Fuyusaka, Class 1B.
I wonder if there's a little bit of characterization in the fact that a lot of everything else he's seen, or at least most of everything else he's seen, is a little familiar to him in one way or another. But when it came to everything about his own identity, nothing is familiar. I wonder if that's kind of reflective of how much his previous self didn't like. I don't like myself. I don't want myself to be carried on. Like, he doesn't even remotely remember his own name to the point where his name doesn't sound familiar. And yet he can look at, like, Iori's face and think she does look familiar.
I think that's a really interesting point. I think, yet again, we're talking about the theme of letting go of the past and embracing the future and its dangerous but exciting possibilities. I think Sekigahara is another excellent example of this, but as a good character and not a bad character like Tetsuya Ida. Sorry, I mean that in the sense of morally good and bad, not well written or poorly written.
Yeah,
a morally good character like Sekigahara that has a similar struggle to Tetsuya Ida in that he's way too attached to the past, and because of that, losing his memories is almost like a fresh start for him in a way that really well accelerates the themes of the game in a way that I'm struggling to vocalize, but it just makes sense in my head.
Yeah, I get you.
Could it have something to do with that woman? Whatever's inside seems to have stayed dry. There's nothing written on the envelope. Some documents are inside. There's a note and what looks like a personnel file inside.
I guess in that same vein, a big reflection of these games' theme again is just how much I guess you could say, past lives of both these characters, previous versions, or even their old memories, how much they sacrifice just to give everyone ahead of them a chance to move forward. Like, they make these horrible mistakes. They sacrifice so much. They tried their best with the hands they were dealt. They still can't succeed. And they just have to place hope in whoever comes next to forward, which is a huge theme of the game. just is like, putting your hope in people that come next, even at your own sacrifice.
There are instructions written on the note. If capture is not possible, then shoot to kill. A note that was included with the files on Morimura. It says, if capture is not possible, then shoot to kill. Morimura's files. Chihiro Morimura, 31. Sakura High School nurse. A key member of Shikishima's weapon development team.
It's the only green ones. Yeah, there you go.
Chihiro Morimura. There's no doubt about it. That's who this woman is. Well, was.
This is the place.
Let's see what we can find.
Someone's coming.
Uh-oh,
I
it's
won't be
the
able to
cops.
talk my way
Gotta
out of
book
this
it.
one. I need to get out of here before they see me.
No, don't run towards them.
I'm gonna see if they can catch me. No, they're just gonna wait, okay.
Check down this back alley too.
Oh, they've got me
Yeah, you can
surrounded.
probably go back.
I need to hide.
Hold
What a mess.
Where'd
And
that boy
there's the
run
men
off
in
to?
black.
He has a gun. We'd best proceed with caution.
We're authorized to use deadly force if necessary.
Yes. We need to clean this up quickly.
If he gets away again, we're in deep shit.
Let's contact HQ and tell them we're on it.
I'll leave that to you. We'll monitor public transits. He can't have gone far.
Sounds like I'm the one they're after. And that means I must be their culprit. Why can't I remember? No time for that now. I can't let myself be captured.
Yet another case of great lighting. I love the way that the pink light from the very edge of the screen is reflecting onto the side of his body. I don't know what witchcraft they pull to make the lighting in this game so natural but so good, considering so much of this is 2D sprites.
I wonder if it's just sort of lighting engine on kind of the outlines of the character models. I'm not sure. I genuinely don't know how that works in terms of actual coding.
I'd love to see like an interview that goes into the depths of how the lighting system works. But I don't think we have many interviews for this game.
It's the trouble with modern gaming. We don't really get a lot of behind the scenes of how they built this sort of stuff. And you get a lot of individual programmers showing off their work, but official, this is how we made that. Not much. A huge shame. I'd love to see that sort of thing.
At least until I figure this all out for myself. What do I do now?
Okay, I'm saying it.
Lighting!
This is the prettiest shot in the game.
It is. This is the shot I first tested out my 4K monitor or TV on, and I was blown away by how gorgeous this looked, and I was like, it was worth getting this just for this shot alone.
It is no coincidence that Keitaro Miura starts every chapter right here and talks about how gorgeous the sunset is, and it's one of my favorite shots in the game. Just look at that lighting. It is immaculate. The way it reflects off of the fucking metal grates and the buildings and the characters, and just the way that it's almost blinding but not enough to actually be a problem. So it still looks like a sunset, but it's not as difficult to look at as one. This is just God. Perfect lighting.
Yeah,
If I don't get
perfect
my
lighting.
memories back,
There's no other word for it. It's perfect lighting.
what'll happen to me?
Hey,
A note that was included with the files on Morimura. It says, if capture is not possible, then shoot
You're
to
just
kill.
ignoring Yuki.
Did I kill her? Did someone order me to do it?
I love how he suggests, did someone order me to do it? Already coming to the assumption of potentially being an assassin. Because it's so natural for him.
Yep.
Chihiro Morimura, 31. Sakura High School nurse. A key member of Shikishima's weapon development team. The one I found dead.
Bye, bitch. Can I talk to anything else? Is there secret dialogue? So we found some earlier.
She's not letting you leave. She is staring
Did
daggers.
you need something?
You stick out like a sore thumb in this part of town. Get yourself
Does
somewhere
he?
with lots of people.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I still don't know how they do it, but they're able to track your general location.
Wait, who are you?
I'm here to return the package I borrowed from you.
A package?
Yeah, I left it over there.
It was not there. Gonna go.
I think Yuki knows that he has no memories at this point. Like, Sekigahara explained to it before.
I don't understand. Who are you? Do you know me?
I'm not here for small talk. Coming here at all was
knows.
risky enough as it is. Just go get your package. See ya.
Nope. Can't talk to her now. She's leaving.
Yeah, but I was saying if she'd have any more secret dialogue. Automatically looking down at the box when he's near it.
That girl said this belongs to me?
No.
Hello. I can't imagine how seeing
That
this
message
must make you
belongs to
feel.
you.
Forgive me for the theatrics. I didn't have much choice. I'm sure you've noticed by now. My name is A. Sekigahara. I'm you. If everything went according to plan, then I'm talking to myself, but with no memories. We don't have much time, so I'm only telling you what you need to know. This is not your world. You're a human from another dimension.
Again,
This place
very
you're in
deceptive
right now.
wording.
Your stay here was intended to be temporary, but there was an accident, a very grave one. And now many people are unable to return home. Well, you are stuck here as well. But don't give up yet. There's still a way back. Unfortunately, I can't tell you here. You understand now, don't you?
One thing I'd like to praise about this game, because I don't have enough praise for this game apparently. The audio engineering on the voice acting in this game is immaculate.
Absolutely. This
game, the voice acting was recorded in the peak of the Pangina, so we can't say the word. YouTube will get us demonetized if we say the word. Not that I'm actually monetized, but
I think it was
you can't say
right before it started. If you're asking about when they finished recording, because, and it was lucky. Everything was recorded when it was, because right afterwards.
Yeah, I think the voice acting is incredible, and the way that it's all so perfectly audio mixed. And then you get to like the effects that they put on top of the characters as well. Like, some of the characters, like in this scene, have a sort of crustiness to their voice that is still... It shows the intentionality of making it crusty because it's coming from a hologram, but they still do a good job at making the effects subtle enough that you can still clearly understand what the characters are saying. And I am so grateful. One of the things that bothers me the most about the world, honestly, like YouTube, TV, movies, audio mixing, and vocal effects are so terrible most of the time, and I love that. I mean, the game has subtitles automatically, but you wouldn't need them to understand what he's saying here, and you wouldn't need them to understand almost anything in this game, unless the point is that you're not understanding it. Because you do get occasional scenes where characters get cut off and shit, or like incredibly fried vocals from like androids and shit, But other than that, you can understand the vocals very clearly in this game, and I'm very grateful for that. It's very well done. It's great for accessibility, because I have issues with audio processing. I can really struggle to retain information if I hear it. I'm a lot better at retaining information if I read it, which is why I have subtitles on for basically everything I watch, because add that on top of bad audio mixing in most media, and it's just a nightmare. But here, it's so well done, and it's accessible, it's still fitting for the narrative, it's worthy of a lot of praise, and I don't think a lot of people would actually credit that. I don't think a lot of people would think to give praise to something like the audio mixing, where it's subtle.
Yeah, audio mixing is really the unsung hero in basically every piece of media, especially dubs.
Yeah, we should really get through this. This is a very long video.
So I
No worries. We have a ton to say.
Its location is known only to me. You must find it. And don't get caught. If you do, there'll be no escape. You have to trust me. I only hope you make the right choice.
Better choice than all your past selves.
How am I supposed to believe all that? Still, it does line up with what those men in black were saying. First things first, I need to get out of here. If what that girl said is true, then I'm not safe here.
She did say get to the city, which is where we'll see him next time.
Next time on 13 Sentinels Z. So that's the end of that chapter, and it's almost an hour long. We're 57 minutes into this recording. There was so much to talk about in that chapter. Sekigahara is definitely one of my favorites. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to contribute?
I hope we didn't use up all our rants for Sekigahara there, and we have more to say in his other sections,
we will.
But
We definitely will.
If anything, our tangents will get longer.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. We'll catch you in the next time. I believe this is the end of today's recording batch, so we'll probably get to you, I don't know, next week or something. But with how much I have to edit and upload, it's probably going to take all week just to get them up anyway, so hopefully the wait's not going to be too long for more content. We'll see. This is Hamburger Chariot and Mirth Mauser signing out. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.
See ya!